Hello, I am Jerry Rahal. My screen camera is not working, so that's good for you guys. I am the executive director of the Louisiana Press Association, and this is the MediaNext, the days and ways of today's top sellers. We are joined today by Emma Trainor, who is with Swift Communications, and I've known for many years, and someone who when I worked with her, called her frequently to ask her a variety of questions, including how to work with sales reps and ad reps. And, she works at a small paper, which I thought was great, to show that you can be great in sales, regardless of size of paper, which I think I frequently hear from smaller papers about not having the time to do that. So it's really wonderful to reach out to Emma to kind of go over the tips and tricks that she and her company use, as well as just even if you don't have those tools, how to go ahead and do well. So Emma, I'll turn it over to you.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Jerry. As Jerry said, we have known each other for a while, worked together in several different capacities. So I kind of have dual roles. I work for Swift Communications, which is a somewhat small-ish newspaper group, media group, mostly based in Colorado. But I'm the director of sales training and development for Swift. So I'm in charge of all of the onboarding of new sellers, as well as continued education for our sellers, as well as training some of our managers as well. So that's kind of the majority of my role. But why I think also this is a great fit is the other part of my role with Swift is that I am the publisher of the Sky High News. The Sky High News is located in Granby, Colorado. So if you guys know Colorado at all, it's near Winter Park Resort. We are a county of about 15,000 residents in the entire county. Our paper is a twice weekly paper. We publish every Wednesday and Friday. And we have a circulation of about 5,000 to 6,000 papers, depending on the time of year. Our area is very seasonal with tourism. So depending on this time of year. I have a total staff at my paper of 5, including myself. I have a staff of 1 salesperson. So I feel like I can probably relate to a lot of your guys' newspapers that are small and they're doing the work and they're in the grind on a day-to-day basis. So I will just kind of take you guys through what I have learned throughout my career and the things that Swift does. So hopefully, can you guys see my screen? Okay, yeah. Perfect. I would assume so. So yeah, we call this the days and ways of today's successful seller because the sales landscape has really changed over the last, I would say obviously over the last 20 years, but especially over the last 2 years with the pandemic. So it just seems kind of timely to talk about what are today's successful sellers doing. A little bit more about me. This is me. I was raised in Steamboat Springs, Colorado, another resort community. I started in the newspaper industry in 2009. So I actually just celebrated 12 years, just started my 13th year in the business. I joined Colorado Mountain News Media as a subsidy of Swift Communications. I joined them in 2015. And then I became the publisher of the paper I'm at now in 2018 and the director of sales training in 2020. And I'm a new mom, so I had to put a picture of my kid in there because that's what new moms do. So here's a little bit of the agenda that we're going to talk about, how to find and focus on the right clients. So really making sure that we're honing in and using our time efficiently because time is money. Our pre-meeting tactics, how do you kind of get the meeting? What do you need to do prior to the meeting? Because all of that is actually really, really important. The essentials to conduct a good customer needs analysis. I will kind of talk through what we consider a customer needs analysis, how and when to follow up, and then how to schedule your day as a seller. So for the people that are on here, are you guys sellers or are you guys sales managers?
I'm a majors manager.
Okay. So like nationals and stuff?
Yeah,
Okay,
yes.
perfect. All right. So we're going to start off with how to find the right clients. So finding the right clients is really important because, like I said, time is money right now. And our sellers these days are so busy. There are so many products. I think, especially being in the newspaper industry like you guys are, there are all of the things to sell, and there are so many things to sell, new things to sell on, a yearly basis. So, making sure that we're using our time as efficiently as possible is super important. So when you're looking for the right clients, you really need to do your research on those clients. Look at what they're doing, whether you're going to use, if you have sales tools that your organization offers you to kind of help you do research on those companies. Sales tools, some of the tools that we use at Swift are AdMall. They give you kind of insights on different industry categories, but also you can run digital audits on companies to see what they are doing digitally. And you can also actually compare them to their competitors on AdMall. So that's always a great tool. We also use Burrell's Compass data. That's a great tool to just figure out what marketing budgets are out there. Vendasta can be a good tool. So I know there's tons of research tools out there. So definitely use those tools to do your research when you're driving down the street, you're headed into the office and you pass by and you see a new appliance store is opening on the corner. Before you spend too much time trying to go after that business, it'd be good to do some research to find out, do we even think that they're a viable business to go after? Go ahead.
One of the things that we were chatting about the other day is I always found like there's a paid research, and Swift certainly has some great paid research, but there's a lot of legwork people can do without it. And so I was telling Emma the other day, like one of the things I like to do is do like Facebook analysis, like who are their followers, how many likes they got. I'd go through a month of the likes they got on their post, but then I also compare that to their competitors in the area. And a lot of times that really didn't lead to a social media vibe, but it did show the client like I was well versed and clearly cared about their company, and they got to see insights that they didn't realize. Like I could share with them insights what their competitors are doing and what they were getting more engagement on, and that was kind of just a way that really impressed them. That really got them looking at us in a way that made, because normally when I walk in, they'd be thinking, oh, newspaper, he wants a print sale. But when I come in showing him both the benefits of print, but also the benefits of some digital stuff and the research behind it, it made a difference. So.
Definitely. Yeah. There's lots of great tools out there, but if you're a smaller organization and you don't have those at your fingertips, old school investigation is still very beneficial. Looking at their website, looking at their social pages, looking at their Google. Do they have a Google My Business? Does it look like it's been updated anytime recently? And then looking at their competitors to see what are their competitors doing online, so that, you can talk intelligently once you have made that connection and have that meeting with them. You can talk intelligently about their business. And, it's really important to make sure that you don't put them down as, oh, your competitors are doing all of this and all of these things are wrong on your site, but really just talking intelligently about, do their hours on Facebook match their hours on their Google My Business or their days that they're open. So definitely there are definitely, old school ways to do that. So where a great way to really hone in on finding the right clients is to start with categories. So I would look at your current book of business. I'll touch on this on the next slide, but your current book of business is really your best clients. So I would look at that first and see if there's any commonalities. What are the top 10 business categories or verticals or industries that you're dealing with that are spending more money, that you're seeing an increase in, that maybe had a big disruption in their industry and need to market themselves more. Look at those types of trends when you're looking to go after businesses. Because I can't stress enough, time is money, and you really have to make sure that you're focusing your efforts with the highest potential clients or the highest potential prospects possible. So I would start with those categories and then make sure that, are trying to find prospects within those different business categories. Another great place to start is with connections, referrals, past clients. I think as media people, we don't do that enough. Sorry, I don't know why that just went away, but we don't do that enough as media people, is asking for referrals. Who are your top clients that are spending with you, and will they refer you? Ask them, hey, is there another business that you know of that could benefit from what I'm providing you? Because obviously you're a happy customer. Past clients, they may have dropped off for a whole number of reasons, but it doesn't mean they're gone forever. So those are always good people too, because they know your products, they know you, they understand marketing. You're not starting from scratch. And then once again, leads are everywhere. I always keep all the direct mailers that I get and give them to my salesperson. Those are great leads. Those people are spending money, and direct mailers are not cheap. And there's digital solutions out there, depending on if you guys have those available or not, but there's, digital solutions that can replace direct mailers. There's billboards. I try to listen. Like I said, I'm in a very small area, so I try to listen to the radio. Who's advertising on the radio? Who's advertising on other websites that are common in our area. So there are leads everywhere, and those people that are already spending money elsewhere and understand marketing are also a better prospect than someone starting from scratch. So just really try to hone in on who those best clients are to spend your time on prospecting. So then really focusing on those clients. I'll talk about some account list management in just a minute, but your current clients are often the best clients to go after. You have a relationship with them, you're spending money with them. It's so much easier to upsell a current client than to get a new client spending at that same level. So make sure you're providing them really good customer service, that you're building that trust, that you're checking in with them to see how they're doing, and that it's not just every time you talk to them, you're trying to sell them something. You really want to create that relationship with them to get them to trust you so that they will grow their advertising budget with you. One of my best examples of that is here in Grand County. We have a very small rural hospital. When I started at this newspaper, they were spending maybe $15,000, $20,000 a year with us in print, which it was our by far largest client that we had. Today, they are between print and digital. They're spending probably over $60,000 or $70,000 a year with us because we've just created that great relationship with them, and we keep growing that business. And we keep adjusting. If there's something that's not working, don't be afraid to tell a business, hey, this isn't working. Let's adjust your dollars and let's do this instead, because that will help you build your trust with them a lot. And they'll know this person really has my best interest at heart. And so I can trust them with my dollars, and likely will then give you more of those dollars.
Just to really emphasize that point, like when I was in Glenwood, there was the hardware store spent $500 a year with us every single year. It was for our best of section. And I asked the sellers if I could go have that client, and they both were more than willing to hand it over to me because they didn't think there was any money. They didn't think they had it. And by the time I was done, I went in there talking about digital and social media, and we actually started them on a social media campaign initially. But signed a $25,000 contract after meeting with them for a couple of weeks, so $500 to $25,000. And then again, went to them, and the social media wasn't working. And I was very clear about it, like, this is not worth it. And they took some of their funding and moved that into print. And so, I think it is, that the idea, I think a lot of times sellers don't think clients have money. They're spending money. And one of the things they did with us is they stopped spending money on their social media plays and their inserts, and they gave that to us instead. So I think a big mistake a lot of people make is not thinking people have the money to spend. And I can think of so many clients in Glenwood that we increased their spend by significant amounts. Mostly because when a new person went in there and worked with them, they didn't have the mindset that's all they had to spend.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think that is one of the trends that we're seeing these days with sellers that we really need to understand, or with clients and customers, is that we need to be willing to adjust their spend and their dollars to different products. And if we can identify that there are dollars that they're spending not with you, that you might be able to get them to adjust over to you. So definitely, yeah, that trust and relationship part of selling, I think, and maybe it's because I live in such a small community, but I just think that is just so important. And when I hire salespeople, I typically don't look for sales experience. I look for someone that can create really good, quick relationships. Like if I can feel really comfortable with them quickly, or they can talk to my staff, that being able to build trust and relationships is far more important to me than having sales experience. So really talking about like making sure that we are selecting the right clients, the highest potential clients. There's a way to do that. So Swift subscribe, I don't know if that's the right word. We use a tool called the Center for Sales Strategy. They call it CSS for short. I don't know if any of you guys have that or have access to it. It's a pretty common sales, it's like a sales training program basically on how to sell. And they really talk about how to select the highest potential clients. And they have a 3-part way that they do that. So say you're prospecting, you've identified some top categories, let's say real estate and home services and healthcare are the top 3 categories that you really want to try to target. So then you start looking for businesses within those categories that you want to go and prospect those specific businesses. So the 3 parts that you really want to look at is their dollar potential. And that's where it's kind of the hardest one to figure out, is what their dollar potential is, but that's where some of those tools can help you, especially like Burrell can help you with that. But even just doing, some old school research, figuring out how many employees do they have, can you estimate about how much they're bringing in a year? So really, dollar potential is important to, it's kind of hard to figure out, but can be important to figure out, because you want to make sure that those prospects that you are looking at have the potential to spend at your key account level. And I will go over what that key account level is in just a minute, but you want to make sure that they've got the money to spend. The second part you want to make sure that you have is access to a decision maker. Do you know someone there? Do you know someone that knows the manager there? Can you connect with them on LinkedIn? Can you connect with them on Facebook? How can you get access to that decision maker? And then the third thing that you want to assess is fit. Is this business a fit for your products? And one of these bullet points I put here is that not everyone is a fit for your products. And I think that that's hard for sellers sometimes to assess or understand, but not every potential prospect is a good fit for your products, or a good fit for maybe all of your products or what you're trying to sell at the time. So really just making sure that there's a fit there for their business with your products. But I would say majority of the time, there's a fit, especially in the newspaper business, because we can sell so many different things. And then lastly, make sure that you're not focusing on more than 10 prospects at a time. Because you're focusing on really high potential clients, you want to make sure that your focus is really dedicated. You've spent all this time figuring out what categories are spending the most, and then finding out those businesses. you're assessing, do they have the dollar potential? Do you have access to the decision maker? Are they a fit for your products? So once you've kind of assessed all of that, it really should narrow down your prospect list to no more than 10 very high potential prospects that you are working at any time. That doesn't mean that you don't have a whole pipeline of leads that are really just leads. They are businesses that you've heard of. They're businesses that you've always thought should do business with you. You know, they're just leads at this point. You know nothing about them. You haven't done all of this research. You can have as many as you want on that leads list. But when we're talking about really prospecting, the prospects should really be a targeted and narrowed down list of people. So this is where I'm going to kind of talk about your account list and the key account level that I was talking about. But you should really be prioritizing all of your effort, not all of your efforts, majority of your efforts, 80% of your time on the top 25% of your client list. This is something that I do with my salespeople. I help oversee another sales team as well. And I do this with them probably at least twice a year, but really figuring out what is your key account level, who are your top advertisers, and making sure that they know that. And it seems like a super simple, silly thing. Like, well, yeah, I know who my best advertisers are. The hospital spends the most money with us. But do you really know who is in your top 25% of your advertisers? Because that's really who should be getting a majority of your time. So this is how you kind of manage your account list. This is how you can help target categories for new prospects. But there's kind of the Center for Sales Strategy breaks out accounts into 4 different types. There's key accounts, secondary accounts, target accounts, and leads. I kind of already talked about leads. Those are just accounts that you really don't know anything about, but they're people that you want to contact. Target accounts are what we were just talking about as far as prospects. Those are the people you've done the research on, that you know that they can spend money. You have access to them. And this is where they say you should have no more than 10 on your target accounts. So your target and leads are really your prospects. Those are people that are not currently doing business with you. Now we go over to the key accounts and the secondary accounts. Those are the businesses that are currently doing business with you. So your key accounts, like I said, are the top 25% of the people that are doing business with you. There's all sorts of ways you can kind of figure this out. The true way you're supposed to figure this out for an organization, for a paper, is that you run every advertiser, you run a report of every advertiser that advertises with that newspaper and how much they spend. And then from there, you take that list, and let's just use easy round numbers because it's easier that way. And it's early for me. If you have 100 clients on a list, the top 25% is going to be the top 25 clients. So it's not about the top 25% of revenue necessarily. It is the top 25% of the number of active clients in that organization. You could also do this for your own personal territory if you wanted to. But that is where you need to focus the most amount of your time on those top 25%. Now, once you figure that out, once again, say we have a list of 100 people that are spending. And so the top 25 clients are considered your key accounts. Whatever that 25th client is spending, let's just say they're spending $2,000 a year. That is what you consider your key account level. So when I say you want to focus on prospects that can spend at that key account level, you want to focus on prospects that you know can spend at least $2,000 a year. When you're working prospects, you want the question you need to ask is, could they become a key account? So knowing who your key accounts are is super, super important, but also knowing what that spend level is also really important. And I remember the very first time I did this, I was a little bit shocked at what that key account level was. When I say $2,000, that's a realistic number within our organization. With my small paper, I think our key account level, the last time I did it, was about $1,600. The key account level for the paper that I also help, the Summit Daily, they are a weekly, or they're a daily paper. They do several $1 million in revenue every year. Their key account level, I think, is like $2,500 a year. So it's really not this huge number. Obviously you would love to go out and find that client that's going to sign, that goes, like Jerry said, that goes from spending $200 a year in a special section to signing a $25,000 contract. That's a big win, and that's a great win. But you can focus on smaller things also, and they will make an impact on your sales, and they will make an impact on you making goal and on you making more money. So that's really focusing on those key accounts. And then your secondary accounts are basically everybody else. The other 75 accounts that are current clients with you, they spend with you, but they're not spending at that key account level. And those secondary accounts are also a really good prospect list, because there are clients on there that probably could spend at that key account level that you could get to move into a key account. And that's really your goal when you're working your own sales territory and your list. Is the overarching goal of your year is that you're growing your key account level. Hopefully next time you do the exercise in a year from now, your key account level is $2,700, or even if it's small increments, growing that key account level is key, and that will really help you focus on growing your accounts.
Hey, Emma.
Yeah.
I know I had this attitude before I started, and I've heard publishers here say it. When you talk about focusing your time, I think a very common thing for publishers, I don't care if they spend $1 or $1 million, they're all going to get treated the same, or they're going to get the same amount of time. And I've also seen, I watched, one of the clients spent $75 a year with us, taking up a ton of time, more so than our key clients. So how do you, I know how we balance it in Glenwood eventually, but what would you say to publishers or ad directors? You want to get customer service. We don't want to give preferential treatment, but at the same time, there are time sucks that occur.
Yeah, I think all of us probably right off the top of our head can identify at least one or two time sucks on our account list that we have that just really don't spend a lot of money. And I think it's a really good question and a really hard dynamic to balance, because you're right, all of your clients should be just as important, because every dollar is important. But in a time where time is money, and we have so many things to sell and so many processes to go through to get our ads in the paper and approved and all of that it doesn't mean that you can't focus time on your secondary accounts or prospecting, because obviously we have to do that to grow. But I definitely, as a publisher, would encourage my seller to put the most, I would say, care and touch and personalization into that top 25% of your clients. Check in with them on a regular basis. Make sure that everything is good. Make sure that if their ad runs wrong, you notify them before they notify you. Making sure that even if you see something that has nothing to do with your newspaper, that that maybe their hours are wrong somewhere listed or something like that, that you let them know those things. I just think that giving them more of that personal time and effort, and going above and beyond for that top 25% is super important. And then the secondary accounts, I think it's probably better to treat them a little more transactional. If you can do it over email, do it over email. If you can hand off a process of the ad approval or turning in artwork, I don't know what all your guys' processes are, but if you could hand that off to someone else in your organization to help you with that process with that client, I would do that as well. So I would try to just save as much time as you can with your prospects and secondary accounts, and focus more on growing and really fostering those relationships and that trust in your key accounts.
And one of the things that I think is systematically a problem, at least what I've seen, is a lot of sellers, they just want every dollar. And so they, instead of realizing, and one of the things that, I try to show is if you focus on that top 25%, you're going to make a lot more revenue and a lot more commissions there. And so one of the things that we did when I was in Glenwood is we try to get those 50% that were kind of walk-ins or calls over to someone who, that's all, the front desk person. And try to, so created a structure, and the sellers didn't like it because they wanted every dollar for their commitment. My point was like, that every, we were still able to provide great customer service to everybody, but you need to focus. I mean, I think people will be amazed if they actually spend that time on that key account list and really develop it, like how much more revenue that's going to mean for the organization overall.
Absolutely. I agree with that. Any other questions or comments? You guys I forgot to tell you that at the very beginning, but you're welcome to jump in whenever, because presenting is much easier that way. So this is as simple as I can make it. To get a meeting, so once you've identified the clients, you're focusing on these prospects or even your key accounts that you're trying to get in the door with, to get the meeting, don't give up. So Jerry and I were talking when we were talking about this, that we have to practice what we preach. We tell our clients repetition is key. You need ads in the paper on a regular basis. You need your ad on the website, so that there's consistent branding, so that if somebody doesn't need you now, but they need you in the future, they'll remember who you are. It's the exact same thing it's the exact same way in our business. Someone might not need us right now, but if we reach out one time and then never follow up, never reach out again, never try different tactics, whether you try email, you try calling, you try stopping in, you try sending a video message to them, whatever it is, one touch base and done is not going to cut it, especially in this world. Business owners have so many options for marketing, and they are overwhelmed. And especially right now with labor shortages and stuff, they are in the grind. They are working in their business, not working on their business. And marketing is working on their business. So to get their focus away from the day-to-day and to helping them promote their business, a one and done is not going to do it. So I very much recommend lots of different touch bases, different forms of communication, different times of day. I mean, I can't tell you how many times a client has been like, oh my gosh, yes, I'm so glad you just emailed me because I've been meaning to get back to you and I just keep forgetting. One of the examples I like to give is last year, I was in the process of refinancing my house. It was in the middle of the pandemic. I was 8 months pregnant and work was crazy. We were working from home, kind of working in the office. I mean, it was the world was upside down, but I wanted to refinance my home, and my mortgage lender continued to call me every single week at a different time of day. And he didn't give up. And finally, one day I said, oh my God, I answered the phone because I was at a point where I was able to talk to him. And I was like, I am so glad that you have continued to call me because I've been meaning to get to you. I just haven't had the time. And that was like a really big aha moment for me because he's making money when I refinance my house. He's not calling me on a consistent basis just because he really wants me to have a better interest rate. He makes money. We make money when people buy our products. So that was just a big aha moment for me in the sales world of we're not bugging people. It just might not have been a good time. And your persistence, you might finally catch them at a good time and they're going to thank you for continuing to follow up with them. And they're going to know that you're going to be persistent in the future as well. So I just say, don't give up when you're trying to get a meeting. Now talk about preparing for the meeting. Once you've identified these clients, you've figured out who the decision maker is, you've done your persistent touch bases, you finally got a meeting with them. Preparing for the meeting is super important. And the reason it's really important is because I'm going to talk about the meeting here in just a minute. But in the meeting, your most important job is to listen and to ask questions and to gather insight. And so the more research you do up front and the more expectations you set up front prior to the meeting, the smoother your meeting is going to go and the more information you're going to get. So like we talked about earlier, do your research, look at their social sites, look at their reviews, look at their website, do digital audits if you have those availabilities, look at other local advertising they're doing, look at everything they're doing so that you can talk intelligently about what you see, how you see their business from a customer perspective. Then when you're setting the meeting, set super clear expectations about what is going to happen in that meeting so that they're not blindsided by something they didn't expect. So obviously you need to set a date, a time, and a location. And we know that sometimes that can get messed up. So that is super important, very elementary, but important. Then tell them, and this can be in an email that says, great, thank you for chatting with me on the phone. I look forward to seeing you at this coffee shop on this day. Here's the things that I want to talk about. So what are the things you want to talk about? And I'll touch on what those should be. Here's the things that won't happen. And what should not happen is that you should not sell them anything in the first meeting. Don't sell them anything in the first meeting. Put that in your head. So important. Let them know that you're not going to be there to pitch products, that you're not going to, bring everybody and their mother with you on this sales call. It's not going to be an 8-legged sales call. If it is, let them know and set those expectations. Tell them who should be there. Make sure that you let them know, I value your time. So if you could please have this person and this person and this person in the room, it would really help streamline this process and make sure that I'm not wasting your time and that we are all using the time as efficiently as possible. And then ask them, have I missed anything? Are there any things that you would like to discuss during that meeting? That way, when you go into that meeting, it's just very, very clear as to what it is that you're going to talk about. So let's talk about conducting a good meeting. And I think this is super vitally important to change our ways as sellers to not go into a meeting and say, so I have this magazine coming up and it publishes on this day and full page ads are this much money and this is the audience we reach. Do you want to buy a full page ad? Because that's how we're trained. We're trained to sell products. This day and age, we have to sell solutions. And to sell solutions, we have to know what the problem is. And that's what conducting a good meeting is going to get you to the root of, is what is that client's problem. So when you start the meeting, you've already in an email clarified everything that you're kind of going to expect. You're kind of going to do the same thing. You're going to go into the meeting. We call it, CSS calls it a discovery meeting. They also call it a customer needs analysis, a 4A's needs analysis. There's lots of terms for this initial meeting. But so you're going to go in, you want to give them an idea of who you are, what you do, and what your company offers. Very high level. You should have, this is your elevator pitch. It's not, I'm Emma Trainor and I am selling Explore Grand magazine and we are a newspaper. Like, that's not an elevator pitch. It's, I'm Emma Trainor. I am the publisher of the Sky High News. We are a multimedia organization that offers solutions for local businesses and clients to grow their business. It's more something along those lines. Talk through the insights you found on their business. So this is where your research comes in. This kind of helps spark conversation. And then ask them questions to better understand their business. And then lastly, you want to confirm what those next steps are. I'm going to go into more detail kind of about the middle steps here. So you want to make sure, as I said, this meeting is to uncover what the problems are or what the needs are of the business, who their best clients are, what products sell, what products don't. So here's a long list of questions. These are, there's lots of other questions that you can ask, but here's kind of an idea of what account. Before I go into these questions, don't assume you know their business, because so many times we actually don't, and we just assume, oh, they're a restaurant, so they need more people in the seats at dinner time. that might not be true. They might not need any more business in their restaurant. They might want to try to push their to-go orders or something like that. So that's why this meeting is so critical in discovering what those needs are. So what accounts for the bulk of your sales? Where do you see growth? Where do you need growth? Where are you struggling to achieve? Who is your ideal customer? What marketing do you currently use? Are you happy with it? Are you not? What have you used in the past? Did it work? Did it not? How do you measure results? What separates you from your competitors? How has the last 18 months changed your business? So all sorts of questions that are more deep dive into what this business really is, and what they're really struggling with. One of the really important things is to figure out how to measure success as well. Those are kind of the last two questions I put on here, but another question you can ask from them is, in a year from now, if you were to do advertising with us in a year from now, what would you want from that advertising? We need to know that expectation up front as to what they expect if they're going to spend money with you. You know, you might assume that driving traffic to their website is the best thing ever. And in a year from now, when you've sold them a campaign and they're like, I don't know what you're talking, this did not work. This was a waste of our money. We don't want to do this again. And you're like, wait a second, we drove 200 people to your website. And they're like, okay, those aren't customers that walked in our door though. And it's like, oh, you were expecting people to walk in your door. I was expecting driving traffic to your website. So really understanding what their needs are and how to measure success. Is there questions on this? Because this is an important part of the process.
You know, I think I have a question/comment. So one of the, when we talk about questions, so we talk about doing research in advance of the meeting. And I can tell you how I did it, but maybe it wasn't the right way. I would like pull a CSS brief and maybe digital analysis and bring that to the meeting. You know, certainly ask questions, but would you hold off to the second meeting to bring that stuff, or would you bring that to the first meeting? You know, because one of the things sometimes I thought was really helpful with the CSS brief is sometimes I'd be like, here's what they say about your industry. And at first they'd be like, that's not true. But the more they thought about it, they'd be like, actually, that is true. And so it kind of helped them rethink about their business a little bit. So what are your recommendations on like, I believe that you should do as much research as possible for the first meeting, but also don't want to come in and, like you said, you know, assume certain things.
Yeah, I think doing the research before the meeting and bringing that to the meeting is important. You don't want to assume that you know everything, but if you can show them that you care about their business and that you've looked into their business, and then that is where you can really help spark conversation. Hey, I was looking at your Facebook page and I noticed that you post on a pretty daily basis. You know, do you find interaction from that? Do you get, you know, whatever, you know, I think asking questions based on your research is where you can definitely start these conversations. And then a lot of times these questions kind of flow with the conversation into kind of after you talk about research, it kind of flows into some of these questions. Once you've started the conversation, once you've kind of told them the research that you've found and you've asked some questions, listen and learn. That is your most important job during a meeting, is to listen and learn about their business and then confirm and clarify. Once you feel like the conversation is kind of done about their business and what their needs are, this is where you can say, I'm hearing that you're succeeding with dinner, you know, that you're busy at dinner time, but you would really like to focus on getting more people in for happy hour. Do I have that right? Confirming with them that you understand their business, that you understand what they said in the way that they meant it. And so that they know and you know that you weren't just assuming that them saying, oh, they're busy for dinner meant that they don't need any in-person business. So really just confirming what that is. And where that's going to help you is when you come back to pitch a proposal, you relate all of your proposal back to these things you need. You come back and say, hi, Mr. Advertiser. After our meeting, you said that the things that you were struggling with are X, Y, and Z, and where your business is strong is here. And so here's a solution for you that should really help you with these X, Y, and Z struggling parts. And you said that really what you want is people in your door. So by doing these things, we can really drive foot traffic into your business by these tactics. How does somebody say no to that when you come back rather than just going in and saying, I have this magazine, are you interested in buying it? But you can come back and say, here's a holistic solution to the problems that you have. And here's how you want to measure, here's what you want out of it, or how you're going to measure success. And here's how we're going to measure that success based on these tactics. You basically, go ahead.
So one of the things that it's a great point. I think one of the things I struggle with sellers specifically is they go, this goes back to the previous slide on questions. And so a lot of times you'd ask what makes you unique. And a lot of times, clients will say customer service, and every client says that. And then, what do you want? Oh, I want, my brand. Like, they give very generic answers, and that gets, really hard to have strong tactics when the answers are just very. So, how did you work with your sellers to try to, make sure that they're asking, maybe some more questions that can get to the true nature of what they want? Because I saw that a ton of grow my business, like that. What does that mean? Like,
yeah, I mean, I think you do just have to dig deeper and ask more questions and ask them, what do you mean by that? When when you say that you differentiate yourself from your competitor because you provide good customer service, how do you know that? What or how do you measure that? What have you heard things about your competitors? Is there something specific you guys do? They might say we provide better customer service, but maybe that means that they send a handwritten personalized note to their customer, probably not a restaurant, but say it's a HVAC service or something like that. And they might send each person that they go into their home a handwritten note or a follow-up coupon. Like, that's the customer service part. So just really digging deeper to find out, like, well, but what does that mean to them? What does they provide better customer service mean? And then grow your business. That's where you really got to dig deep and be like, okay, well, then how are you going to measure how your business is going to grow in a year from now? What means your business grew? And they might say, well, we made more money. Okay, well, did you make more money by cutting expenses, or did you make more money by putting people, getting people in the door? Or did you make more money by people doing something online? Or so you really have to dig deep and ask tough questions and play the naive card too. Hey, I don't understand how your business works. I'm a marketing expert. Can you explain to me what that means more? When you say you grew your business, what does that mean to you? What does that mean? More people in the door? Does that mean more people on your website? So really digging, I think, is the most important. So after you've done a customer needs analysis meeting, these are the 4 things that you really need to walk away with understanding for that business, so that you can then come back and provide them a solution-based proposal. What are their business needs? What areas do they want to focus on? What needs to be solved? And then how do they measure success? If you can all agree on those things and clarify those things, then you'll be able to create a good proposal that you can present to them that meets all of their needs. This is also as simple as I can make it. Obviously, we talked about not giving up to get the meeting. You might have to be persistent to get a next meeting, but the very, very best time to get the next meeting is in the meeting that you're in. You've clarified all these things. You've figured out what their needs are. You figured out how you're going to measure success, and you say, sounds great. I'm going to go back to my office and I would like to put together a proposal for you based on X, Y, and Z that we have talked about. And when is a good time next week that I can come and present that to you, that these key decision makers can all be in the room together. Let's all look at our calendars now. We're all busy, I get it. So let's just set that meeting now. Set the meeting in the meeting that you're in. Okay, that's kind of the whole, the sales process that we talked about. It's kind of the beginning stages of the sales process. Obviously, I'm not going to go into how to create proposals or how to pitch those proposals, but I'm going to go into now how to organize your day, because I know we are running out of time and I want to be respectful of that. So as a seller, we've talked about it is so critically important to organize ourselves, to be efficient, to make sure we're prospecting the right businesses, because we are so busy. So this is how Swift expects their sellers to organize their day. And I have found it, I think, very beneficial. And I think sellers that come to us do as well. So you've got your morning prep. Just to preface also, some of these things in your morning and afternoon can be swapped depending on the type of person you are. Jerry and I have kind of talked about that I'm the type of person that I would prefer to do like my training or my research about clients in the afternoon when I'm done with my day. Whereas at that point during the day, Jerry's like done. He needs to just like autopilot through the rest of the day and get the tasks done. And he wants to do the research in the beginning of the day. So some of these things are definitely customizable to your person, your type of person. But in general, in the morning, you want to review your publication from the previous day, make sure all your ads ran correctly, that nothing was weird. You want to know the news that's, if you're a newspaper, you want to know the news that's in your newspaper, because that news may affect some of your advertisers. You want to just kind of organize yourself, review your calendar. If you use a CRM or if you have your own management of how, what stage clients are at in the sales process, you want to make sure to look at that, look at your CRM, see who you might need to follow up with, review any financial reports that you need to, prep for the next day. So turn in artwork for ads or book ads maybe that you need to get booked. And then plan your route of where you're going to go. Make sure you have all the supplies you need. And then you are out the door. So by 10:30 in the morning, I expect all my sellers to be out the door on the streets. In the world of Zoom, that might mean that they are still in their office, but they're on a Zoom meeting with a preset client. But by 10, you should be out the door and not returning until 4. So during the middle of the day, you should hopefully be contacting 10 to 15 clients. Some of those should be like qualified preset meetings, but others are just, like I said, stopping in. You need to make contacts with clients that are not sales contacts. So just stopping in, browsing their store, having lunch somewhere, whatever it is, but just making contacts with clients to make sure that they know that you're still there and that you still value them. Make sure you have your laptop with you. Make sure you know where good Wi-Fi spots are so that you can log on to email, or if you have a sales training like this one in the middle of the day, you could stop at a Starbucks and sit down and have a coffee and watch your training, get some ads turned in. And then making sure that if you have a preset appointment and no one is there, they don't show for some reason, it happens, that once again, you either are stopping by other people's businesses or stop by the chamber, find out any new businesses that have opened, stop by town hall, see what's going on, walk or drive through a strip mall, see what's opened, go to events that might be going on to just see who you might be able to connect with, anywhere that you can get more leads and do more of that research on. So that's like 10 to 4. You should be out in the field, meeting with clients, getting leads, and then stopping in places here and there to check email if you need to.
And back that for a second, I saw reps, really successful reps were good at this. And the ones that struggled were like, I can't get away from my desk. I gotta this or that. And it goes back to the earlier slide, like setting those meetings in advance and sending a reminder email a little beforehand, like, hey, by the way, this is what we're going to be going over, and just, don't send it just the day of, but or the day after the meeting, but the day before, like the really successful ones, those set meetings. And you're not going to be able to set meetings all the time. Like if you can set 10 to 15 client meetings in a day, mazel tov. But,
Yeah.
but you want to get at least a couple of those and then work your day around. I can't stress this enough for managers or sellers. Like, you got to have those 10 to 4 or something. Like, you got to be out and about. I just watched it again and again. The successful ones out and about, and the unsuccessful ones making excuses as why they can't get off their computer.
Absolutely. I even say that about my reporters, which is a very like faux pas kind of thing in the newsroom. Reporters are always just kind of in the newsroom unless they're covering an event. And I always tell my reporters, go write a story at a coffee shop. You will be shocked at the things that you overhear people talking about, story leads or connections that you can make with a business owner. So the more you can be out and about in your community is absolutely key. And then your afternoon wrap up, you get back to the office, you finalize any ads that you might need to approve, you book out some ads for the next day, you update your CRM of who you've talked to, you plan out your next day, maybe start generating some proposals, start talking with other sales reps of, hey, I had this meeting today and this is who the client is and this is what their needs are. What products would you pitch them? Just talking with your clients. And then communicating with your customers, sending them thank yous for meeting with you, sending out meeting reminders or agendas, that kind of stuff, kind of your end of day wrap up. Okay, we are right at 10, so I'm going to breeze through these, but I will give you guys copies of the slides. But key takeaways for sellers is know your account list and focus on growing your key accounts. Knowing your account list is so important. Know that there are multiple ways and multiple times to connect with your clients to get a meeting. Repetition is so important. In those meetings, listen, learn, recap, and advise. That is the process for that. And then make sure that you organize your day to be as efficient as possible. For managers, I can't stress enough training. Train. Always training your sales staff, even if it's a 10-minute training, something quick. Always training your sales staff. I always say that you can never do enough objection training. I'm sure you could find all sorts of objection training tactics online, but always training your sales staff. Also, managers should know that key account level, know whose the key accounts are, and then revisit that several times a year and have your sellers do that process of looking at their key account level several times a year. Go on calls with clients or with sellers. Be in the trenches with them. As a manager, I feel like a really great way to connect with your salespeople and make them not feel like they have all the burden is to be out there with them, be making sales calls. As Jerry talked about, I also have accounts as a publisher of a newspaper. I have account territory, and Jerry did as well, because we want to prove to our sellers that their work is not above us and that we can go out and we can make those sales as well. Set expectations and hold your sellers accountable. Accountability is, I think, probably the worst part of managing people. You just want people to always be accountable for what they say they're going to do, but they don't. So just making sure that you set clear expectations and you're always holding them accountable.
Well,
go ahead.
One of the things that I thought, Bob Brown said in one of our meetings about going on calls with your sellers, I thought was great. Like, you don't expect a football coach wouldn't coach up his team and then not go to the football game. Like,
exactly.
You gotta be in the field. And that really resonated, because I remember being like, Bob, I'm so busy. Like, I don't have time to go in the field. I got all these things to do. And I heard that. I'm like, that's a great point. Like that you wouldn't. So again, I know we're a bit time, but I thought that was such a great analogy that he gave us that I want to share.
That is for sure. Absolutely. I skipped one. Once again, this will be in the slide deck, but for managers, I put just like 3 little simple trainings that you can do at a sales meeting that don't take long at all, but are good good trainings to do. And then here's my contact information. So if anybody has questions, you are welcome to reach out to Jerry or myself, and I'll be happy to talk through more. So thank you guys so much.
Any final questions? All right, thank you. Emma, can you stay on?